Good morning. I haven't been on for a few weeks. I've actually had some schedule issues and dealing with some personal stuff. But I found myself back in Iceland. I was here in June of 2017, but I didn't do any vlogging at the time. So I came back out to Iceland on my way back from Europe. We left the hotel this morning at 2 o'clock. It's a 5-hour drive to Jökulsárlón. I'm probably nowhere near pronouncing that right, but it's the famous Iceberg lagoon and the Iceberg beach. So leaving at 2 a.m. put us out here at 6:50. It's now 7 o'clock. Sunrise is in about 30 minutes. So right now I'm walking over to the beach. So right now in March, it's still in the throes of winter. Spring hasn't really gotten here, especially this far north. So a lot of the icebergs are still frozen. As we came across the bridge, which you can see in the background, most of the lagoon is frozen. But I came over and scouted the beach and it looks pretty good. So I'm gonna walk over there and see what I can find as far as a composition with that famous black sand and the ice. So come along. Got really good conditions right now. I'm not having to use any filters just because we're about 25 minutes before sunrise. I am getting some really interesting glow on the water and on the ice, and so I'm shooting this at f9, which gives me about a 2-second exposure at ISO 100. I have the 16 to 35 millimeter on, and I'm at about 30 mil. Adjusting the composition, but I want to go with a 2-second exposure to give me some interesting movement in the water, but I don't want to blur it out completely. So you kind of have to wait for the timing. And as the water comes in, the best opportunity is to open the shutter as the water recedes. So it's all a matter of a waiting game and trying not to get my feet wet. So hopefully this works out, and we'll see what we come up with. But I've taken a walk up and down the beach scouting out a few different locations. Now there's certainly no shortage of compositions. It's probably about 2 degrees Celsius or 34, 35 degrees Fahrenheit, so just above freezing. But the key here is to get a clear subject in the composition. So I've been focusing on the contrast between the black sand and the ice, which is typical for this location. I'm also careful not to blow out the highlights as the sun continues to come up. You can see on my camera that I still don't have any, I'm not using any graduated filters. And I don't want to take the time to do any exposure blending. I'm being careful to try and keep my feet somewhat dry. But I've got a couple different shots that I'm happy with this morning. The light is starting to change, so I need to think about that, and I'll show you a couple of the pictures that I've taken so far. Let me know what you think. Well, I've had plenty of opportunities to move up and down the beach, and I did manage to get my feet wet, which is probably a good thing. I don't know if you can get the composition that you want without risking it a little bit and being close to water. It appears that the tide is coming in right now. So it's kind of like being in a shooting gallery a little bit, but I really enjoyed this. The light was actually better pre-sunrise than it is now. The sunrise light on the horizon's really been snuffed out by some low-level clouds, so we're not getting the light now that we had earlier, unfortunately. So it's very early in the morning, and I have lots of time left. In the day, I'm here for a full day, and then I have sunrise tomorrow if I can get myself out of bed again. So I'm going to wrap it up for this part of the beach. If you're interested, I'm on the northern side of the beach. There's a northern side and a southern side of the outlet from the glacier lagoon, watching the water coming in here. The icebergs go out through a narrow channel into the ocean and then get swept up on the beach on both sides. So I'm on the north side of the channel. But I'm going to wrap it up from this location, and I'll pick up later on. So I've left the beach, which is back this way, and stopped really quick for a shot of these mountains in the background. I don't know how well you can see them on this camera, but I like the way that the morning light, the filtered light, was illuminating the mountains, but it wasn't, the foreground was still in shadow. Interesting clouds and color in the sky. I don't know if this will be black or white or color. I'm thinking that I'll leave it color. It's more of a minimalistic shot. I've put the 70 to 200 on, and I'm zoomed in at 200 millimeters. On the eastern edge of this mountain range here, and giving the right side of the frame some room to breathe. So I'll go ahead and take this quick shot, quick stopover, and head on down the road. Well, good evening. Made my way across Iceland to Kirkjufell and Kirkjufell Foss. So sunrise on the southeast coast, sunset on the northwest Snæfellsnes something or other peninsula. I've never been here in the winter, so this is a different composition than I've seen in the summer, which I was here in June of 2017. Some challenging conditions with the ice, but it does add some character to the composition, and something that you definitely can't have in the summertime. For those of you that have been to Iceland, it's quite a journey. So from Reykjavik, where I stayed last night, to the Iceberg beach where I was this morning is a 5-hour drive. We left the hotel at 2 o'clock in the morning, and we shot sunrise there this morning, and then drove back to Reykjavik. Had about an hour and 10-minute break, and then left Reykjavik and came to Kirkjufell, which is another 2.5 hours. So we spent quite a long time in the car today, but I think it's worth it. We're going to set up here and toy with some compositions here at the upper falls and also at the lower falls. So I've tried a couple compositions here at the upper falls, and I've decided to drop my tripod down a bit because the challenge here is, I'll show you, the first composition I tried, I had a distracting snow on the lower portion of the frame, and it didn't anchor the composition well. So actually what I did was drop the tripod down as low as I can get it, and that allows me to have a more upward view of the falls, and it makes for a much better composition. So I'm going to go ahead and shoot this, and let me know what you think of the finished product. So that about does it from Kirkjufell. Started this morning on the southeast coast at the Iceberg beach and ended on the northwest Snæfellsnes or something of that matter peninsula. If you don't follow this icon of a mountain in Iceland, it's extremely popular. Kirkjufell was actually popular on the Game of Thrones series. This is the mountain that the Hound had a vision of the army of the dead walking by when he said he had a vision of a mountain that was shaped like an arrowhead. It was actually Kirkjufell. So, little GOT trivia for you as we end it here at Kirkjufell and Kirkjufell Foss. This place, as I said, is a extremely popular location for photography, and it's a zoo of a place in the summer, but I was really happy to come here in the winter and get some different compositions and different subject matter with the ice. It was really interesting. Didn't really have any color to speak of in the sky, but when you're out like this, you work with what you're given. But it's been an excellent day. A total of 15 hours in the car by the time I get back to the hotel in Reykjavik, and I'll be headed back to Seattle tomorrow. But yeah, I'm going to sign off here. I'd like to thank you for coming along. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, I'd appreciate a thumbs up. And if you want to get updates, or if you have any questions, leave them down in the comments. If you want to get updates, consider hitting that subscribe button. And I will see you in the next video.